Welcome to Learn C by VISHNU Universal Learning. Today's our problem's title is Sum of the longest sequence of positive numbers in an array. Presented by M.BHARGAVI Mani and guided by Dr. M.PRASAD, Associate Professor of Department of CSC from SHRI VISHNU Engineering College for Women, BHIMAVARAM. And coming to the problem statement, you are given an array of numbers and you are expected to return the sum of the longest sequence of positive numbers in an array. If there is no positive numbers in an array, you are expected to return -1. In this question scope, the number 0 should be considered as positive. And note, if there are more than one group of elements in an array having the longest sequence of positive numbers, you are expected to return the total sum of all of those positive numbers. Yes, you will be given an array of numbers, and the numbers may be positive, negative, or 0, or combination of all three. If all numbers are negative, you should return -1. If the array contains all combinations, then you should return the sum of the longest sequence of positive numbers. And if you have two same length longest sequences, you should return the sum of the both longest sequence positive integers. Okay, now let me explain you. Firstly, we have to declare the variables of integer data type. Array of size 100 and I is for number of iterations and n is to scan the size of the array. Sum, count, compare equals to 0, total equals to 0. We are declaring total and compare initially. And in the printf statement, we are asking the user to give the size of the array. Printf size of array is scanf, n is a variable to scan the size. So %d %n. And in another printf statement, we are asking the user to give the numbers of array or elements of array. So printf /n used to give a next line. /n enter the array of numbers. Using the for loop, we are scanning each and every element of the array. So scanf %d array of I. For the first iteration, I will be 0, so we are scanning the first element. For the next iteration, I will be incremented by 1, and the next element will be scanned, and so on it happens till the size of the array is reached. And next we have to declare sum and count as zeros. And using the for loop, another for loop, we are checking each and every element, whether it is positive, negative or 0. So for I equals to 0, until the size, we are incrementing I by 1. If array of I is greater than or equal to 0, that is, the element is greater than or equal to 0, then count will be incremented by 1. And that element will be added to the sum, where sum is initially declared as 0. So that element plus 0, the result will be stored in the sum again. If the element is negative, then it enters into this condition. Else if array of I is less than 0, that is, if the element is negative, then it enters into else if condition, and again else if we have written the nested if, in which if compare is less than or equal to count, then it enters into this condition. Compare is less than count, then we have to make the total as 0. Compare is less than count, then total should become 0. After this, count will be stored in the compare and sum will be added to the total, which is 0. 0 plus total, result will be stored in total again. And again we have to make the count as 0 and sum as 0. If we didn't make the count and sum as 0, the next value will be added to the previous value of count and sum, which creates a bug. In this condition, we have written compare less than count. What happens if compare is greater than count? Then also it is necessary to make the count and sum as zeros. After completion of this checking, we will be out of the for loop. Next, in the question, we are also given that if all the elements are negative, then -1 should be written. So for that condition, we have to make the count as 0. For using the for loop, again till the size of the array, we are incrementing I by 1. If array of I is less than 0, count will be incremented by 1. Yes, if the count equals to size, that means in every iteration, count is incremented by 1 and it reaches the size. If that happens, it means that every element is less than 0. That means every element is negative. So if it happens, then count will be equals to n. If count equals to n, then we have to print -1. Else if count not equals to n and if count equals to 0. If count equals to 0, what is the reason? If count equals to 0, it means every element is greater than 0. It means all numbers in an array are positive and their sum is percentile d. Here percentile d is nothing but the here sum. Because if all elements are positive, the array or the iteration will be happen in this if condition. It won't enter into this else if condition. Because in this if condition we have written array of I is greater than or equal to 0. This is a condition for positive numbers. Here the variable is sum. So this total will be stored in sum. So we have to write the sum here. Else, that means if the array contains both negatives, positives and 0, then we have to write the printf statement as else /n percentile d is the sum of the longest sequence of positive numbers, where percentile d is nothing but the total plus sum. Yes, we are done with the explanation. Okay, now let me explain you with examples. Let the size of the array be 7. And let the elements be 1, 2, -8, 7, 25, 0 and -9. Here we have the positive elements as 1, 2 and 7, 25 and 0. Here the longest sequence is nothing but 7, 25, 0. So 7 plus 25 plus 0, which is nothing but 32. So 32 is the sum of the longest sequence of positive numbers. Now let me explain you with the code. Here we have the first element as 1, which is a positive number. So it enters into if condition. Now count value becomes 1 and sum value becomes that array element plus 0, which is nothing but 1 plus 0, will be stored in the sum again. Since this if condition is true, it won't enter into this else if condition. Now here the next element is 2. 2 is a positive element, so it enters into if condition. Now count value becomes 2 and sum value becomes previous sum value, which is nothing but 1 plus 2, which is nothing but 3. So 3 will be stored in the sum. And the next element we have is -8. -8 is a negative number, so it enters into else if condition, that is array of I less than 0. Now in else if condition we have nested if conditions. In the if condition we return compare less than or equal to count. Initially we made compare as 0 and now we are left with the count value as 2. So 0 is less than or equal to 2. This is a true condition, so it enters into if condition. That is 0 less than 2. This is also a true condition. So now total becomes 0. The count value, which is nothing but 2, will be stored in the compare. And now total value becomes total plus sum, which is 0 plus 3 will be stored in the sum. And then count and sum becomes 0. Since this if condition, this else if condition is true, it won't enter into next else if condition. Now the next element we have is 7. So 7 is a positive number, so it enters into if condition. Now again count becomes 1, sum value becomes 0 plus 7, which is nothing but 7. And now next element we have is 25. 25 is a positive number, so it also enters into if condition. Now count value becomes 2 and sum value becomes previous sum value, which is nothing but 7 plus 25, which is 32. So 32 will be stored in the sum. And the next value will be a positive number, so it enters into if condition. So now count becomes 3 and sum becomes 0 plus 32, which is 32. So 32 will be stored in the sum. And the next element we have is -9. -9 is a negative number, so it enters into else if condition. In the else if condition, we have nested if conditions, that is compare less than or equal to count. Previously we made compare value as 2, so 2 is less than or equal to 3. Yes, this is true, so it enters into nested if condition, that is 2 less than 3. Now total becomes 0, that is previous total value will be erased and we made total as 0. Now count value will be stored in the compare. Count value is nothing but 3. So compare value becomes 3. And total value becomes total plus sum, that is 0 plus 32. That is 32 will be stored in the total again. Again count and sum becomes 0. Since we are left with no elements, for loop will be end up here. After ending up the for loop, it prints the %LD is the sum of the longest sequence of positive number, where %LD is nothing but total plus sum, which is nothing but 32 plus 0, which is nothing but 32. So 32 is the sum of the longest sequence of positive numbers. Now let me explain you another test case. Now let the size of the array be 6. Now let the elements be 21, 0, minus 5, 7, 15, minus 25. Yeah, that's it. 6 elements are enough. Here we have the positive elements as 21, 0, and 7 and 15. Here we have two longer sequences, that is 21, 0 and 7, 15. So it prints the total sum value, that is 21 plus 0 plus 7 plus 15, which is nothing but 43. So 43 is the sum of the longest sequence of positive numbers. Now let me explain you with the code. First element we have is 21. 21 is a positive number, so it enters into if condition. And now count becomes 1 and some value becomes 21. And the next value we have is 0. 0 is also a positive number according to a problem statement. So it also again enters into if condition. Now count becomes 2 and some value becomes 21 plus 0, which is 21. So 21 will be stored in the sum. And the next value we have is minus 5. Minus 5 is a negative number, so it enters into else if condition. Now in the else if condition, we have if condition as compare less than or equal to count, that is 0 less than or equal to 2. Yes, this is true. So it again enters into nested if condition, that is 0 less than 2. This is also true. So now total becomes 0. And the count value will be stored in the compare. So compare became 2. And the total value become 0 plus 21, which is 21. And again count and sum became 0. And it won't enter into this else if condition, since previous else if condition is true. Now the next element we have is 7. 7 is a positive number, so it enters into if condition. Now again count becomes 1 and sum becomes 0 plus 7, which is 7. So 7 will be stored in the sum. And the next value we have is 15. 15 is also a positive number, so it enters into this else if condition. And now again count becomes 2 and sum value becomes 7 plus 15 and will be stored in the sum again. And the next element we have is minus 25. Minus 25 is a negative value, so it enters into else if condition. Now in this if condition, compare less than or equal to count, that is 2 less than or equal to 2. Since previously we have compare value as 2 and now count value became 2, that is 2 less than or equal to 2, which is true condition. So it enters into if condition, that is 2 less than 2, which is not a true condition. So now total won't become 0. So now count value will be stored in the compare, that is compare value became 2 and the total value became total, that is previous total we have as 21. Now that previous total plus present sum, which is 7 plus 15, will be stored in the total. Now total became 43. And again we made compare and count and sum as zeros. Since we are left with no elements, for loop will end up here. After ending up the for loop, we are left with the total value as 43. So it prints the 43 is the sum of the longest sequence of positive numbers. Here sum is nothing but 0. What is the reason of writing sum value? Because if it is 0 in all cases. I will explain you the reason for writing sum here. For that, let me give another test case. Now again, let the size of the array be 6. Now they let the array elements be 21. I'm giving the same elements for better understanding. And now I'm replacing the last value, which is negative value, to the middle of the array, because I want to make the last element as positive, and I want to make the longest sequence at the last. Yes, 7 and 25. Yes, here we have the longest sequences as 21 0 and 7 25. Yes, 53 is the sum of the longest sequence of positive numbers, because it made the sum of the 21 0 7 and 25, which is nothing but the 53. So 53 is the longest sum of the longest sequence of positive numbers. Now let me remove the sum here. Now let me run the code again. Now I'm giving the same elements again. Now let us see what the result will be given. I'm giving the same elements 0 minus 5 minus 25 7 and 25. Yes, it gave 21 is the sum of the longest sequence of positive number. That is, it printed the only sum of the first longest sequence. And what about last longest sequence? Since we have no negative element at the last, that is, after the second longest sequence, it won't enter into this else if condition. That is, into this else if condition. But we return total in this else if condition, and we ask it to print the total. Since we have the negative number after the first longest sequence, it enters into else if condition, and total value will be stored as 21. But since we have no negative element at the last, that is after the second longest sequence, it won't enter into this else if condition. Now total value won't change, so it printed as 21. Since we have no negative element after the second longest sequence, it will remain in this if condition only. In this if condition, we have variable as sum. So we have to write sum here. Yes, if we write the sum here, the sum of the 7 plus 25 will also be added to the total value. So resultant value will be given as 53. Now let me run this. One second. Yes, now let me run this. Let the size of the array be 6. And I am giving the same elements 21 0 minus 5 minus 25 7 and 25. Yes, 53 is the sum of the longest sequence of positive numbers. This is true. So if you don't write the sum here, it creates a bug. So in order to avoid that bug, sum should be written. Now let me do with another test case. Now let the size of the array be 10. Now I want to declare all the elements of positive numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, all numbers in the array are positive and their sum is nothing but 45. Since all the elements are positive, this enters into only this if condition. It won't enter into this else if condition. So in this if condition, we have the variable as sum. The sum of all the elements will be stored in the sum. So in the printf statement, we have to write the %d as sum. So it printed all numbers in the array are positive and the sum is nothing but 45. Now let me explain you the code. First element which is nothing but 1. 1 is a positive number. It enters into if condition. Now count became 1 and sum value became 1. And second value is also a positive. Again enters into count which is 2 and sum became 1 plus 2 which is 3 and so on it happens till 0. Till 0. 0 is also a positive number. So then this is also enters into if condition. Now count value became 10 since the size of the array is 10. And now sum value became 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 7. 6 plus 8 plus 9 plus 0 which is 45. So sum value became 45. After this ending of for loop, we are left with the sum value as 45. So it printed all numbers in array are positive and the sum is 45. Now let me go with another test case. Now let the size of the array be 5. Now I am declaring all the elements as negative. Minus 99, minus 88, minus 77, minus 55 and minus 44. Yes, minus 1 is written. According to our problem statement, minus 1 should be written if all elements of the array are negative. So here we have the code for negative numbers. I made count as 0 and using the for loop from I is equals to 0 till the size of the array, I incremented count, I by 1, and I checked whether each and every element is less than or 0 or not. If it is less than 0, I made count plus plus, that is increment the count. If after ending this for loop, if we left the count value as sum, count value as the size of the array, then declare to print the minus 1. Since all the elements are negative, count value will be get incremented till the size and finally count value became size, that is n. So since this condition became true, it printed minus 1. Yes, we are done with the last test case and we are done with the coding. Thanks for watching.